the media had been saying that because of the fact that there was the potential for another Tamil candidate to run against me, that this is the only reason why I took this trip, and he's asking if that's true. The simple answer to that question is absolutely not. That has nothing to do with me taking a personal trip. My trip to India and Sri Lanka was planned months in advance. Actually, last spring I had decided that I would be going. This was before there was even rumors of the possibility of the potential of a potential Tamil candidate running against me in the constituency. This was before even the constituency had been divided, was when I had decided of taking this trip. The reason all of you and the media and the Canadian people don't know about it is because it's a personal trip. If it was an official trip, I would have advised the entire media that I was going when I had made the decision. But because it was a personal trip, I didn't feel it was necessary to let anybody know other than my immediate family. And even my immediate family only knew very close before I left, because even when I take vacations, I don't tell my family months in advance where I'm going. I tell them when I feel it's necessary for them to know. And this was absolutely a personal trip. Had nothing to do with the election, had nothing to do with the possibility of the potential of a Tamil candidate running against me. Nothing at all. It was just me taking a personal trip to connect with my mother's land, my father's land, and the country that I was born in, and to see with my own two eyes what I didn't remember as a child leaving that country. Thank you.
So I'm going to take the final question, and then I think Rathika wants to say some thank yous, and then we'll...
I just want to know, according to the Sri Lankan news, country is normal. More than this, people are moving throughout the night. Have you noticed any people moving after 6 o'clock in Jaffna Peninsula?
People are moving out about after 6 o'clock, yes. I didn't witness a curfew, but people are not moving about freely. Is how I experienced it. I can only speak of my experience. I was not allowed to move about freely. So I know that people have to go in and register at military checkpoints here and there. Military have the right to stop vehicles or bicycles or people who are walking anywhere they see them. This is what I witnessed.
Forces are out the area? Are they in the...
Forces are outside the areas everywhere, from what I saw. There's military. I say military because I think they're military. There's also military police everywhere on street intersections. So there's a lot of militarization, or just almost like a police state. Is that okay to say? It seems like
there
are checkpoints, but then there's some checkpoints where you have to pull your vehicle, register with your identity card or your passport, and say exactly who was in this vehicle. There's other ones that are smaller where there's just 1 or 2 officers, and you can see that they sit there and they write down every license plate that passes by. Or sometimes they'll stop you and just look inside your vehicle and let you pass. But other places you must stop and must register. My question is, if there's no war, there is no war. Why are these still there, and why is it that there are more and more military or army bases or camps growing? I saw everywhere that I drove by that there's an army base or an army camp that is being strengthened, or being beautified, or the gentrification of army bases, whereas I think that there's a lot of people living in poverty. And when I went by Mulivaikal, the place where the last phase of the war happened, just being in the area where it happened, the sorrow and the devastation that people felt is absolutely palpable. You can feel it in the air. And there are homes there still that are just little huts. People are living in these homes. There are people living in what I saw many places, where there's half houses, 2 walls and a half wall. They put a sari over as a roof. and there's people living inside there. Those buildings can be fixed because people need to be living in houses that are safe and living in situations with dignity. I didn't see that everywhere, and I wish I could have. I wish I could tell you differently. I really do wish I could.
So I think we're gonna wrap it up. If there's any further questions or requests,
my experience in India. So from the time I left Canada, I did not speak with any media. So all of the reports you heard were stories that people made up on their own. The only thing that I issued was on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve when I issued that statement to assure people that I wasn't under house arrest. That was the only communication that came from me. Otherwise, even when I was in India and Sri Lanka, both, a lot of media tried to talk with me, and I specifically told them that I was on a personal trip and not doing any media. The only thing that I did was, as you mentioned, the interview with Pudhiya Thalamarai. Just before I left, the day before I left India, I did an interview with them, and I told them that they're not allowed to air it until the 19th, which is after I'm safely back in Canada. Other than that, I didn't speak with any media, and I think it was a good opportunity for me to have a sit-down conversation with one of the medias in India, and which has following around the world, just to have a candid conversation. So I want to thank the Pudhiya Thalamarai. Pudhiya Thalamarai, when I translate it, actually means next generation media, is what they're called in English. The next generation media was a total group of young people in India who have started this network, and it's a great.
Very popular now.
It's a very popular TV network that was totally started by young people, and I want to take this opportunity to thank them for really pushing for that interview. And I also want to say thank you to the non-Tamil organization in India and the chapter here in Canada for supporting my trip in India quite a bit and helping with a lot of the coordination and meetings with some of the important people in India, and also helping with my trip to Mullivaikal Mucham, or to translate it, I guess, Mullivaikal Garden, which is a memorial that has been built in India, in Thanjavur, for the war that took place in Sri Lanka, for the last phase of the war, basically. It's a memorial that's standing in India, in Thanjavur, and it was because of these friends who I was able to go visit this very special place. They have done an impeccable job in every piece of stone that's carved in that area has true meaning and tells a story. And I think every diaspora Tamil and every person who's fighting for the rights of Tamils from the Sri Lanka war have to go see this memorial garden that they built. This is also the place where recently, excuse me?
You're talking about the Mullivaikal?
Yeah.
Yes.
You mentioned the name.
This is also the place where recently their compound wall and water fountain that they had set up were broken down by the government, and Nedumaranaya and a whole bunch of other people, community members, are raising funds again to rebuild it, because it's really a sacred memorial that's being cared for by average people. It's not owned by any one person, it's owned by the community. And it has, I think, of everything that's there, for me, the thing that held the most value for me was a fistful of soil. It's soil or sand that has blood in it. It's like blood-filled soil from the ground of Mullivaikal, from the last phase of the war, that's in a little sanctuary just at the base of the big statue of they call it Mada Tamil, or just a silhouette of a woman, a young woman, who is representing the language. And just at the base of her is this fistful of soil that's blood soiled. Sand from Muliwaikal itself, and that goes to that's the center point of the whole memorial as well, and that's truly what grabbed me, is that that's actual sand that's blood soiled by my sisters and brothers who lost their lives or who fought to hold on to their lives during that last phase of the war, and that's what that memorial is about. And I say thank you to everybody who helped make
sorry,
that
madam, they put
visit.
it in a glass, or
It is.
that red blood sand is in a glass? Or?
It is.
Right.
It's in a glass thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think
Thank you, everybody.
Do you want to do one final question, and then we're going to have to wrap it up?
So the two questions were very different. The first one was, in India, did I meet any political leaders and who were they? And the second part was the experiences that I had in Sri Lanka. Will I be taking that to the UN Human Rights Council meeting that's happening in March? I'll go backwards. So I'm not the government spokesperson for the United Nations. That is the Minister of Foreign Affairs. So I have not been invited by the United Nations Human Rights Council to make a deputation or to speak. So I don't have the right or the authority to speak at that. Only the Minister of Foreign Affairs has, or their representatives. So if I have an invitation, I will be happy to go speak and share at the UNHCR my experiences. If the United Nations invites me to be there, I will for sure be happy to share my experiences. And while in India, I met with some of the local political leaders, such as Seaman, Nirumaranaya. I met with Mr. Vaiko. I met with whom else? Mr. Tirumavalavan. Everything happened in such a rush nature, and didn't sleep. Since I left Canada, I didn't sleep at all. Whom else did I meet? I met Seaman, Nirumaranaya, Vaiko, Tirumavalavan, Ranana.
Is a director of
Who?
some of the film director.
Film directors? Oh, R.K. Selvamani?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of my friends who was helping me with make a lot of the arrangements. And Mr. Ayanathan from Nam Tamil was helping out a lot with a lot of the orchestration. And it was really beautiful to see that, they're all people from different political parties, but they come together. They try to work together, and it was interesting for me to have Mr. Ayanathan from Nam Tamil, who was helping to make a lot of the arrangements, and Mr. R.K. Selvamani, the film producer. But he came with me to meet with somebody from a different political party, and because we as an international community have an obligation to be united and to work together, they were willing to come together to have a conversation, and I think we need to have that type of unity here in Canada as well. And in the global diaspora, we need to learn to work together and stand with a united voice to be able to truly defend the human rights and to be able to achieve whatever it is that the people who are living on the island of Sri Lanka, whatever they want, whatever they need for their lives to move forward, we need to work together as an international community. We need to come together as a Canadian community, as an international community, and work as a unified way. And that's what I saw happening with my meeting there. And I really have to say thank you to all of the Nam Tamil organization, whether it's here in Canada or in India, for their help in making those meetings happen.
Any chance for the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu?
Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, there was potentially a meeting set up, but then she fell ill and had to cancel her meetings, so I wasn't able to meet with her. And when I was in New Delhi, I almost met with Arvind Kejriwal there too, the Chief Minister there, but things didn't work out and it didn't happen. But it was, like I said, I really wanted to just take a vacation, and everybody knew I was there and people wanted meetings. So some of the meetings I had whenever I was able to, in Delhi I was able to meet with many of the leaders within the Dalit community as well, actually, in Delhi, through the faith groups, through the church, and not through the church also, because an injustice to one is an injustice to all, and the Dalit community there is are being oppressed, and they wanted to have a conversation, and I was willing to have a conversation, and met with a lot of the leaders, the political leaders there as well. So there's a lot of my friends who are political leaders and politically influenced people who connected with me with some of their other friends within the country as well.
Thanks.
Okay.
It's a wrap. So we want to thank